Thank you for calling Claire Fluffle Co. Co spelled with a K like Claire. This is Claire. How may I clear you today? Return Deluxe's True Arena, you say? Yep, we got a lot of calls about that one. Lots of people struggle with it. Did you know that you can actually clear it pretty easily, though? No, not with items. With Sand Kirby, silly. It's so strong against bosses that I tell people all the time to use it. And as of October 5th, 2024, I'm still right. I'm sorry, I'm sure it's impolite to laugh over the phone to customers. I'm sure. Actually, wait a minute, shut up. Someone's on the other line, Hello, this is Claire. What's that? Sand's not good anymore? Yeah, real funny. What, did you read the script in advance and you're trying to pick on me? Check the times for the True Arena? Sure, but... Oh my god, Sand actually fell off. Time to change my upload schedule so I can freak out over this to other people! One YouTube schedule upload change later. Alright, despite all my goofy intros, even I can admit that Kirby's Return to Dream Land Deluxe's True Arena is not a cakewalk. Surely, one would assume, speedrunning this mode would be impossible, if not highly daunting, right? Well, kinda not really. In fact, we've actually had Sand Kirby around to help make Return Deluxe's True Arena pretty easy, and fast too. But one day, and by that, I mean October 5th, 2024, which is almost 20 months after Return Deluxe came out. I hope you like hearing that date, because I'm going to be saying it a lot of this video for no real reason. Sand became suboptimal. Well, before we get into what changed for Return Deluxe's True Arena, let's talk about how it used to be, when everything was coming up sand. Well, technically for like a day, it was coming up day to day, but boy, have the times not been kind to him recently. Let's get hashtag Buff My King trending on Blue Sky. Not Twitter, though. I hate Twitter. Anyway, Sand was practically designed to destroy bosses in this game. One look at the damage numbers will have your jaw dropping. Again, if Day-to-Day and by extension Hammer can't keep up in Return to Dreamland, you know an ability is good. To get into some Sand specifics, shall we say, there are a few moves that make it really powerful, like the Sandcastle. You know, makes sense because Sandcastles are epic, and I want you all to build one for me to live in. Please, thank you. This is a great attack to put out while you can't damage boss. Of course, when bosses hit it, they destroy it, so we may need to work on those defenses for a little bit. I like the hustle, though. There's also moves like Sand Dash, done by dashing, shocker, and attacking, primarily good for its invincibility. Or, as lazy people like me like to call it, invul. For those pesky enemies that are in the air, you can use Sand Geyser, done by guarding and then attacking. This, comboed into Sandstorm, which is done by attacking while pressing up, does absurd damage, all for the cost of potentially maybe getting hit once, maybe. And if all else fails, Sand Geyser by itself is also super duper strong, even if you use it on the ground. So basically what I'm saying is use Sand Geyser, it's really good, hee hee hee. Sand's real claim to fame, and why it's so absurdly, or absurdly good, is Golem Smasher, done by pressing down on the ground while attacking and charging. While you're charging it, it does absurdly good damage, and has an absurdly good hitbox if you need to hit enemies in the air as well as on the ground. But what really sells it is, for some reason, when you hit it from, like, really far away, it does even more damage, nearly double of what already is one of the strongest attacks in the game. And trust me, while spacing it might seem hard, it's not. It may look scary, and I fully plan on farming this for horror YouTube jump spare content. But like anything presented to you as difficult on the internet, it's really not that bad. With everything explained, it is clear as day why Sand was considered the best ability for Return Deluxe's True Arena. It just has everything, including the world record time for many months. 20 months apparently, if my video title is to be believed. But suddenly, on October 5th, 2024, a new challenger stepped up to challenge Sand's reign. Now, to answer for $1 million is the answer. A nail. B, a helmet. C, A, final answer. Aw, too bad. Now, you must head pat Puppy as a punishment. Why? While you're doing your punishment, if you could also do me a super fast favor and maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm a One Pup show and I really appreciate any kind of support that you can give. Liking the video, subscribing, especially leaving a comment, your thoughts on Sand, your thoughts on our soon-to-be-announced new champ, Return Deluxe's True Arena in general, anything you can think of to leave a comment for, I would appreciate. And if you are subscribed already, thank you. But also, please consider double-checking to make sure that you are. Sometimes people who think they're subbed kind of wind up aren't, which I choose to blame YouTube for myself, but I still appreciate any and all the support. Now, as for our Sand dethroner, the Sander, if you catch my drift, the answer was, of course, D. And D, in this case, is Meta Knight. But what makes a Meta Knight so good, you may ask? Sure, longtime Fluffle fans may remember me ranking him as 4th in the Wii version a few years back, but, you know, not only was that a few years ago, how can the 4th best ability in a game without Sand? Kirby, sorry, I know Mr. Duder, and his Sand is right there, but how do you go from that to 1st in a game with Sand? It doesn't make any sense. Well, it actually does, and I will explain it to you with the power of a YouTube video! Ooh. Yeah, can you tell it's a few days after Halloween? So unlike Sand, which has several moves that make it absolutely absurd, Meta Knight has a bunch, but only winds up using 2, for the most part. A bunch of his other moves do have scattered usage, but hey, you know what? As they say, 2's a party, right? I don't know what they say about other numbers, but I'm sure it's sweet and wholesome. Anyway, fans of both Kirby and Smash Bros. Should know what one of them is. Of course, it's the shuttle loop. Actually, fans of Smash probably undervalue how good this move is in Kirby games. It's genuinely better here than it is even in Brawl. It's super fast, super strong, and can be used multiple times in a single jump. I wouldn't say it's as good as it is in, say, Star Allies or anything, but just look at the damage and the numbers will speak for themselves. But Meta Knight has had the shuttle loop for a long time, right? Even in the original Wii version, the game was totally called, and I'm not lying here, Kirby's Shuttle to Loop Land. After all, Loop Land, by the way, that's spelled as 2 words, not one. People spell it a lot. They spell it as 1 word, and it really bothers me, so stop. Well, this game came out after Star Allies, which, to make a very long story short, gave the Return to Dream Land friends new moves. Bandanity got a grounded dash attack, Day-to-Day got the super Day-to-Day jump and his slide, and Meta Knight got a counter. Wait, what? Well, it may not sound like much, but these moves were carried over to Return Deluxe, and you know what? I'm not even going to speak over this. I'm just gonna let the footage do the talking for me. Seriously, you see this? What even is this? I want to say it's disgusting, but it's so beautiful. I can't help but stare in disgust. Anyway, yeah, this counter does unbelievable damage, and to be honest, I'm surprised it does this much. Oh, don't get me wrong, it was strong in Star Allies too, but Meta Knight, and most characters in that game if I'm being honest, had faster ways of depleting the enormous health bars of KSA bosses. Here though, in a game like Return to Dream Land and Return Deluxe, where bosses have nearly no health, this counter still does the insane damage that it did back then. dealing strong hits like this is actually very important for a reason that, even though I don't get really much of a chance to talk about it on this channel, is crucial to speedrunning almost any Kirby boss fight, and is honestly one of my favorite things about doing it. I am, of course, talking about boss splits. Basically, depending on how quickly a boss reaches a certain HP threshold, they'll wind up doing something. Older games usually used HP as a benchmark for when they would do certain attacks, if it wasn't just mandated by RNG or simple cycles. The modern games kind of do this as well. They mostly eliminate the RNG, because who actually likes RNG? Also play Fire Emblem. But they also use the HP as a benchmark for when a boss will begin to power up and go into phase 2. But here's the thing. This value is set in stone at a certain percentage of damage dealt for each boss, easy to see with the HP bar on the top. As speedrunners, we can use this to our advantage. We say the boss has 51% of its HP left and it enters phase 2 at 50%. If we land, oh, I don't know, Mennonite's absurdly stupid counter at this point, the boss's HP doesn't just go to 50% and lock there. No! If his counter will bring it from 51 to 26, it's gonna heck and bring it down to 26. Thus, the strategy with Mennonite largely falls to this. Use some combination of shuttle loop and meta counter, maybe even that spinny spin attack in the air if you want variety to win the day, to bring a boss down to as low as they can get without having them enter phase 2. Bring them down super low with a strong counter, and while they're telegraphing their first strong phase 2 attack of nastiness, smack with another counter. If they still have the will to live, well, you've got the shuttle loop and the counter again to work some magic with. If they die, then congrats, they're dead. You killed them. They are dead because of you. They can no longer breathe in oxygen because you damaged their bodies to the point where they can no longer do this very basic and very necessary function. You rock! All joking aside, Mennonite is absurdly strong for the True Arena, and as of the legendary October 5th run, Mennonite dominated Sand's best time by a good 20 seconds or so. This is insanely impressive, and I really want to congratulate Bombtine on their insane run. Optimizing to the extent of what happened there is not easy. That being said, though, just because Sand is outclassed, going by the video title, or just because Sand is lame, going by the thumbnail, doesn't mean that it's bad. It went a long time being the best ability for bosses, and hey, you know what? It still got a better time than every other ability. Even Day-to-Day isn't really all that close. And you know what, if it's any consolation for you Sand fans out there, you are given it for free immediately before the boss of World 7 in the story mode. And at that point, you really don't need to worry about movement, so wing isn't necessary. You're free to take Sand and do all the sandy things that you've wanted to do with your life. Yay! So in story mode categories, Sand is, honestly, probably always will be necessary for good runs. With that pat on the back for Sand, it's still a good 15 to 20 seconds behind Mennonite for the True Arena, in a run that Bombton admits can be improved. And again, no shade to Bombton or anything, it took me a long time just to slightly replicate the strats that they were doing, and by the way, I'm doing them much worse, if you can't tell by the footage, but the cap for Mennonite has not been reached. And I mean, I guess that being said, it hasn't really been reached for Sand yet either. And maybe some other top tier abilities too, like Day-to-Day and, well, okay, these are the only top 3 abilities really, but still, 3, that's a pretty big number for a Kirby game. Usually it's 1, if we're lucky 2. And just because 2 is usually the cap, I can count to 3, because I am a smart pup. Basically, even though Sand isn't a dominant number 1 force anymore, it's still a dominant number 2 force, and even sees use in story mode categories, so it isn't all bad. Meanwhile, Mennonite is a dominant number 1, and sees use in multiple story mode multiplayer categories. Although, unironically, the Bandanity meta may or may not be on its way. I'm serious, Bandanity saves time over 1 player and multiplayer Mennonite, at least in 1-1. Fight Bandanity, fight for everlasting peace. Hashtag BandanaDNation. If you want to help me fight for everlasting head pads, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. All of those things really help me out. If you'd like to go the extra mile, please consider becoming a Puptrin on my Patreon or join as a Mempup on YouTube. You get access to nifty perks, including early access to all future videos such as this one. Special thanks to my head-padding, Fluffle fan, Puptrins and Mempups, Freakish Uproar, Lydia Scribe, Nightfall, and Chris. I love you all! And I guess we made it this far. We all deserve to hear this. I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, and it gets everywhere. I like Parasol instead! Yay! Bye!